We are live, by the way.
We're 9 seconds into it.
Yep. I'm trying to get a...
What are you trying to do?
Trying to post this to my own personal Facebook page.
But you know we're live.
So, I know. Hey, where's it going?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Do you want me to welcome everybody? We have like 32 people tuned in already.
Go ahead. Do it.
Nobody's tuned in yet.
I know.
So I think we're good. Somebody's tuned in. So here we go. All right. Welcome this evening to Legacy Live. Kevin's supposed to do these intros, but he's toying on his phone or something. His priorities are all whacked tonight. I will tell you that for sure. He can't even do a live segment on the ride and complete it. But welcome back. Hey, first and foremost, I want to thank last week's guests, Mark Andrews and Billy Glades, Arnaud. We had a blast. It was a good time. Fun reminiscing about their rides and just having a good old chat about the Breakfast Club. So,
a twist of irony last week, we joked about Carl,
yes.
and you know, always at expense. He's an older gentleman.
He is,
and he had an unfortunate mishap in the parking lot. He went down before the ride started, and actually broke
his femur.
Yeah, up close to the hip or something. I don't know the details.
He's home. He's on crutches, and he actually went to dinner with everybody last night. So. Yeah. So he's on the mend. I think it's going to be about 8 weeks until you get back on the training. So we miss you, Carl. Come visit us.
Yeah, get well soon.
We'd love to make fun of your crutches. So anyhow, that's good. Also, keep your thoughts and prayers out. We've got a fellow rider that's having some medical issues over and had to go over to Tampa. So just if you guys would keep him in your thoughts and prayers, that would be great. Hopefully he'll have a speedy recovery. So,
and we haven't cleared whether we have any permission to announce who it is. So we're just
right. So
just he's one of us. He rides. So
yeah.
All right. Our normal, kind of what rides are going. And honestly, I've been swamped today at all my different jobs. So I haven't seen anything go up about what peddlers are doing this particular weekend. Have you seen anything?
No, not on peddlers. I know Relentless is going to do another 56 miler.
In the show notes.
And I'm sure that there'll be a B group that goes out also.
Right. You've been riding with that group, helping them out, doing a couple loops around the.
Yeah, we'll probably do that again if that's what they want to do. I like to be able to do that and get done to church. So
kudos to Jenny Cox last week. Doing 2 laps.
Yep, she did great.
Yeah.
She did great. She did really good.
Come back.
So, and you can always check out the Relentless Facebook page if you want more info related to that. So, and I think we also want to note that Tour Sebring's coming up. So, Labor Day weekend, Tour Sebring, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday rides. We've got our friends. A little shout out to Real Bikes in Inglewood.
Yeah,
Gary
they're coming
and
up.
those guys.
They got about 15 guys coming up.
They're bringing a crew up, so
that'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, we always have fun with them. And I think, and we'll probably post it. I think we're going to do a big party, maybe Friday night at Don Jose on the back porch.
Cool.
Our buddies from Real Bikes and some of our groups. So we'll make a public announcement about that as we get into the week.
Awesome.
And get everybody lined up for that. So
right. I just want to announce that I've officially been able to do what I wanted to do on my phone, so I can.
What was it that you wanted to do?
Utmost. I'm just sharing our Legacy Live show to my personal Facebook page. So I was finally able to.
To which you have 3 followers.
4.
Nice.
All right.
So, all right. Hey, Gregory. Good evening, sir. Hollering at us from right down the street, I think, above his apartment. So
good ride tonight. No rain. The rain came in early today, and it stayed clear.
It looked like we were going to hit it, but we avoided it the whole night. That was fun.
A little bit of a headwind going out. I guess was a tailwind coming back, or did it die off?
I think it died off a little bit, but I will tell you this: it was the best looking group we've had in quite some time.
When you have Kip in there,
yeah,
it's hard not to look.
And that's exactly what I meant. Yeah, Kip. That's the one. No, but it was a 1-to-1 ratio of ladies to men.
Triple L.
We did have triple L.
Lacey.
L.A.
Laura.
And LG.
Not Louis Garneau.
No. Louis Garneau. So that was fun. We had a good ride. Typical tour to after work route, and everybody had a good time.
And with like Lacey being a relative beginner rider to groups, Laura, I'm not sure her experience with the group riding, but I know she's making a comeback too.
LA or LG?
LG, I don't, and even LA for that matter, a little bit less experience with groups overall.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good segue to talk about some things that are near and dear to my heart, and I think it's important for everyone that's
near and dear to your heart.
Safety, because I'm probably one of the clumsiest, least safe people out there. So
safety is important to you, yet you felt the desire to live feed from a bike ride at the front of the pace line with your telephone out,
one hand on the
trying
bars,
to talk with one hand on the
looking
bars.
Out the screen instead of the road ahead of me.
Yep. Okay.
And I still screwed that up.
You did.
Didn't even get out what I wanted to get out. So if you had the misfortune of watching that
15 seconds of fame.
15 seconds, it was terrible. Sorry.
Down the tubes. All right. So what are we going to talk about? Group etiquette, riding etiquette? Is that what you want to talk about?
Group at a 101 level, just the basics you need to go. If you're kind of a new rider, you're going out to ride with the group, and you don't really have someone to kind of hold your hand during that first experience. These are things to think about, to look for, and even to communicate to other people. I mean, the bottom line, if you're a new rider, you show up somewhere, no one really knows you.
Yeah.
One, they're probably going to know you're a new rider just by looking at you.
That's right.
A lot of times. But don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm a new rider. I've actually seen guys show up to rides, club rides, fully kitted up, all the right clothes and shoes. Everything's, like Laura says, matchy-matchy. They look good. They got a nice, expensive bike, and then they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And it's scary. So wherever your level of, just let someone know that, hey, I'm kind of new, and,
That's right. But I think before we start getting into etiquette, we should probably just talk about basic terminology, that maybe people aren't quite aware of, what the hell's a peloton?
Right. What is
or what's echeloning and things like that. So let's go over that's what we're here for. This is near and dear to your heart. So I'm hopeful that you researched the Webster Dictionary version of this.
Did not have time to do any of that. So this is all Shutt definitions. This is not dictionary or
Shutt.
I didn't go to the what's that? Never mind.
I don't know, but I will say this for those tuning in: if you feel the opportunity to give us a thumbs up, to give us a heart, we'd love to see your feedback throughout the show. All right, so let's talk about it, Kevin. What's a pace line? Let's just define a pace line first and foremost.
Well,
and you got a single pace line and you got double pace line.
I'll give you a basic Shutt definition, and then you can come in with your.
But no Shutt-gasms. Look. You ask and you shall receive. Look at that. Nice. Thunderous applause and frowny faces and anger faces and oh my's.
Only Kip could have thumbs that fast. Oh, wait, Rebecca.
Yeah. Somebody.
Tony.
Yeah, so there you go.
Thank you, guys. Pace line. Pace line is essentially a group of riders that are more organized. So you roll out as a group, and it can just be a group, a gaggle, or whatever. Then as you get into a pace line, you're actually one by one or double pace line, so you got two people and everyone's single file behind them.
Right.
And you're riding in an organized manner at this point with some known communication skills or communication methods, and you're doing these other things that we're going to talk about, such as drafting or echeloning and rotating and all that stuff. But that's pace line essentially how
you brought it up. So the pace line, single file. Next component of a pace line is drafting.
Right.
So let's talk about drafting. What is drafting?
Drafting is getting an advantage.
If you're not first, you're last type of approach.
I just watched that movie too.
Did you? Talladega Nights?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Great show. We should do a movie about bicycling, racing, spoof about the Tour de France. Genius.
It's already been done.
All right, drafting, pace line. We talked about what a pace line is, but a key component of pace line is drafting.
The nice thing about any cyclist that's kind of grown up in Highlands County, they're already probably redneck enough to watch NASCAR, so they know it's the same as NASCAR. You're getting up behind someone and you're getting into their draft or their slipstream to get a aerodynamic benefit of not having to work as hard. And depending where you're at in the pace line, it could be a minimal to a maximum of about 30%, whatever. I mean, so that's basically what it is you get behind someone, they're doing the work, they're hitting the win, you're behind them, and you're working less hard.
Sure. Yeah, you got to – if you're drafting efficiently behind somebody, you're getting a 20% decrease in the amount of power that you're having to output for the same amount of overall speed.
Right.
So, and then if you if you break into that a little deeper, you start talking about the third, fourth, and fifth person in line and the benefit that they're getting, which is it's not equal the benefit percentage wise, but just playing around with round numbers. If second rider's 20% less effort, 22, 24, 28, the riders farther back are getting even greater of a benefit
up to a certain point. Then you got a point of diminishing returns, and you have other things to deal with at that point, which we'll talk about later on about pace line and group riding that affect.
So, in your experience, where do you have to be to get benefit of draft in a pace line?
Where do you have to be? Behind someone.
Right, but what proximity?
I prefer to be anywhere from fourth to sixth wheel in a group.
No. I'm sorry. When you're drafting behind somebody, how close of proximity do you need to be getting the benefit?
You can be as close as roughly 2 bike lengths to have some benefit, and of course, the closer you get, the more benefit you get. And the more risk you take as far as
cross-wheeling, overlapping, and things like that.
Reaction time, really.
Now, obviously the closer you are, the better, but you need to do it in a manner to where you're not overlapping or cross-wheeling.
Right.
So talk a little bit about that.
Let me check this real quick.
And let's talk about drafting a little bit. When you're the second person in line, you're getting, actually there's for lack of a better term, a vortex kind of pulling you along. So what you'll find is that as second person in line, you're kind of getting propelled into the leader in front of you. And so the biggest mistake that people new to riding a pace line make is they coast.
Right.
So in that scenario, what should you do?
Instead of coasting, and just in case anyone's not clear on that, is literally when you stop pedaling and you just let your bike drift under whatever power is going.
Right.
What you should do instead is you need a downshift or upshift to the appropriate gear for the pace you're going, and then do something we call soft pedaling, or we call soft pedaling, which is you instead of you slow your RPMs down,
right?
And what it allows you to do is maintain a steadier pace instead of, because when you coast, if you're lucky, like I said, you'll get pulled along a little bit, but if you're not, you'll start slowing down relatively dramatically relative to the people in front of you.
And the term we call that is yo-yoing.
Right, exactly.
When you're doing this relative to the person behind you, whereas if you soft pedal,
Sorry.
All right. Hard break. But soft pedaling is keeping yourself in a rhythm so that you're not speeding up and catching up, speeding up, catching up.
And that's what happens is you drift. When you coast, you drift and you pedal hard. And now everyone that's behind you has to pedal hard. And that, if you're the first 3 or 4 bikes, sometimes it's not even noticeable. If you're behind it, everything amplifies the further back you are. So if you're 8, 9, or 10, you're really having a fight, and now you're wearing people out behind you. So if you're trying to work together as a group, you're not helping the guys behind you, and if you're back there and they're doing the same thing, you're going to suffer. It's going to not be as enjoyable.
So one of my pet peeves when on a group ride is communication. And when we do a ride out and we have a new person out on the ride, I try to hang back and talk to them about communication. So why don't you touch on that subject in communicating with the riders that are fellow riders in your pace line group ride?
First point I would say is most things that we communicate, the vast majority of them we could do with hand signals of some sort. And you really don't even have to vocalize it. Vocalizing is a nice backup depending on who you're with. And I think the more novice the riders, the more you want to vocalize it in addition, so you learn what different things mean. Or
if you have a new rider and you have a new rider on the ride, vocalizing can help them understand what you're doing too. Signal, but give a vocal.
Exactly. So the basic things you want to do is you also want to signal any turns coming up, and we're not talking obviously curves in the road, but you're taking a turn from one road to another. You're gonna and we kind of grew up with the right turn, left turn, one arm, left arm. And in group riding, road riding, we use both arms. So if you're pointing something to the left, you're going to use your left arm. to the right arm.
And the Department of Transportation actually doesn't adopt that rule anymore anyways. So.
Okay, that's no longer rules of the road thing.
So it's point the direction you're going.
With the hand,
Down sign for slowing.
And I'll use either hand for slowing down depending on what the situation. That varies. Sure. But you want to point out obstacles in the road. I mean, potholes, anything. Now, sometimes we get carried away and we're pointing every single thing out, and that's not necessary. Your bike can go over a lot more things than you give it credit for. But any kind of potholes, wide cracks that are in line with the road.
Debris.
Yeah, debris. People walking, people jogging, dogs on the side of the road, dogs running at you. I'm trying to think what else.
Well, we were on a group ride last weekend, and I was pointing out potholes and divots in the road, and the person that was riding behind me said, I don't know what you keep pointing at. And so I was like, damn, everybody doesn't understand.
You don't understand it. So as you're going up, you can say pothole or, come, and you'll see signals. Sometimes people will just kind of point, or sometimes they'll move their hands. And if someone's kind of waving you, the idea is you come a little bit left or come a little bit right, depending on the hand signal. And if you don't know the hand signal, say, hey, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, so
it's okay to ask questions.
So I guess the root of all this is communication's key when you're in a group ride. It is literally impossible to over-communicate what's going on. And what I often tell folks is you have to realize, especially when you're group riding, with even if it's 5 people, if you're not the last person, any place but last, every action you take is going to have a reaction from the person behind you, and subsequently the person behind them. So,
can I add something? The last person, though, they're not going to signal potholes and debris, but they're still going to signal turns because there's potentially motorists behind you. So they're going to signal that.
But I'm not talking as much signaling as I am communicating with the people in front of you. You know, we did a group ride 2 weeks ago, just one of the toured after work rides, and we had one of the riders that was really not oblivious to all of that, and hadn't been group riding for a couple weeks or a couple years, maybe even. And so we just had to slow down, and I pulled up and talked to him and said, listen, you just need to make sure that you're cognizant of every time you do something, everybody behind you is having to respond to what you do. In some manner. So simple thing of riding along in the pace line at 20 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you stand up. Yeah. You don't do that.
Yeah, and people don't understand what happens to their bike when they stand up.
Right, when you stand up, the bike surges backwards, and next thing you know, you're into another rider. And heartbreak, peace.
No, but you got it close. John Collier was asking closed fist for stopping. I personally use an open palm of my hand, and I'll put it behind me, and I might even wave it like this, just to get the people's attention.
Sure.
But I don't think I would be confused if you put a closed fist behind you and just held it there. Now a closed fist tapping your butt tells people that you are tapping out or coming off the front, and we'll talk about that later.
Well, and we talked a few minutes ago.
To answer your question, closed fist, steady behind you should be clear. But I personally use an open hand. I think most riders in Highlands Peddlers locally, I think I've seen open palms, John.
Yeah, and one of the questions we had was talking about accordion effect, and that goes to what we talked about a few minutes ago about soft pedaling versus coasting.
Right.
And Evelyn, we were talking about the yo-yo effect or accordion effect that happens when you're not soft pedaling and you're coasting, and how, and it goes back to every action has a reaction from the people behind you. So
let's go back and talk about standing up.
Yeah.
Mid pace line. Or anytime you're in a group of people riding, but primarily pace lining, what's the mechanics of going on when someone stands up, and what are the reasons someone would stand up in the middle of a pace line?
Well, a couple things: stretching, climbing, and if you're in a tandem, it's okay if you're the stoker to stand up because the bike doesn't surge.
Stoker is the rear. The one that doesn't do any work, just kind of.
The stoker really, I mean, most of the time she's just there waving and talking, and and I, that was pretty sexist. I said she, but
we meant any stoker.
Yeah, because
everyone,
you would never put the powerful person in the back
or Karin.
Right. Yeah, but so back to the question was standing up.
Yeah.
So climbing, though, here's something to consider.
Well, okay. Let's say we're rolling along. It's flat. We've been, we're 12 miles on the ride. My butt hurts. My legs are sore. I need to stretch. I need to get off, relieve the pressure a little bit.
Yep.
What do I do? Do I have to wait till I'm in the ride's over?
Nope. You need to communicate and signal it.
Okay.
So, and let's talk about signals again. Don't think of signaling as I'm going and then immediate. You want to signal and give time for everybody to understand behind
what's going on.
So let's say you need to stand up. One of the common signals is tap butt and point thumb up.
I don't think
You really going to show the audience your butt?
Yeah.
Woo! Oh, sorry.
Not that kind of show.
Yeah.
Not yet, anyways.
Tapping back and with thumb up is
a
telltale sign that I'm getting ready to stand up and stretch my legs or whatever it may be.
And your correct reaction as the guy or gal behind that person is to say, "Okay, I got you."
Right.
And the soft pedal to give them a couple feet.
Yep.
So when they do stand up, there's room. And you can also anticipate it. One, you can anticipate it when they give you a signal, but you also got to be thinking of that. It could happen at any time. Someone could stand up and not tell you.
Sure.
And you always got to kind of have a line picked out to go a little bit left or a little bit right to avoid going into the wheel.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about pulling. All right, so you're the front guy. Okay, you're pulling, you're putting in a hard effort. What do you do when you leave that effort? And then one. And two, what does the second person in line then do?
Right. So as the person on the pull, and it's time for me to come off the pull, you're going to signal. You're going to let them know that you're coming off. I personally do the elbow flick, and I will generally, depending on which side people are drafting off of me, I'll flick an elbow. A lot of people in the peddlers will reach around with a fist, like I said earlier, and tap their backside, and that's most common with the peddlers. So,
now, general rule of thumb is you tap out the side that you're going to be tapping out to, and something we should talk about is there are different dynamics in different group rides as to how you tap out and whether you tap out into the wind or in the peddler's fashion, you always tap out and move to the left.
You're going to move out to the left, so that means you would generally tap your right side because people are going to be either directly behind you or off to the right for the most part.
Right.
So we'll talk. Echelon's kind of an advanced thing, so we may talk about that towards the end of the discussion.
Well, and there's a comment here that talks that says do not use the elbow, and I think one of the things that everybody needs to understand is different clubs, groups, and ability levels.
She's talking about the Sagan elbow.
Oh yeah,
that's what she's talking about.
That's a good elbow.
No, but finish what you're saying about.
Well, I think
everyone has their own.
I think it's important to understand what the dynamics are of the group that you're riding with, because we'll take, for instance, when you guys go and do Polytech, they're a more competitive-based group, and their rotation tends to be the rider on the front pulls out into the wind, because that's really the proper racer etiquette way of doing things.
Well, yeah, on the Polytech ride specifically.
I don't mean to point that out, but
no, what I'm saying is that's actually a double pace line scenario most of the time.
Okay.
But so that's why I said we got to talk about pulling into the wind when we talk about echelon, which I don't think is a one-on-one discussion yet.
Maybe we don't get into that tonight. Okay.
Because you could actually spend 20 minutes just talking about good echelon.
All right, so here we go. We've talked about pulling out.
You signal that you're pulling out.
Now, what does Rider 2 do?
Well, first of all, Rider 2, I see that you signal you're pulling out. So now I know that when
it's not an immediate tap and pull.
Exactly. Everything,
because if somebody's overlapping your wheel, whatever the crazy scenario may be.
It's just like driving. You don't signal and then take that hard right-hand turn in the parking lot. You give them 100 feet notice. But anyways, you signal that you're – okay, first guy signals that they're coming off the pull. Second guy just basically is aware of it so that when that front person now, after they signal and they've given it a few revolutions and stuff, they're going to actually accelerate. They're going to surge enough to break contact just a little bit. And the second person is going to maintain whatever pace the group has been maintaining.
Right.
That person is going to come off check a shoulder or something, make sure they're clear, start drifting back. They're going to look at what their pace line's doing behind them so they don't drift back, and they soft pedal. They get
right.
You can even coast if there's no one behind you, but you drift back. And then the second person is going to maintain pace, and then if they need to pick up the pace at some point over time,
it's a gradual
they can
thing.
gradually. You don't.
The biggest jerk move you can make
or off is mistake.
Correct.
There's a difference.
Okay.
You can be a jerk because you've been riding for 5 years and you do this every time you get on the pole, or you can be riding for 5 months and you're the first time with the group and you don't know any better. That's why we're having this discussion. You're not a jerk if you don't know better.
Right. And the group riding etiquette is don't do an attack when somebody's pulling off.
Unless you want to.
Unless you're trying to
hurt them.
Unless that's your time to go. But normally the etiquette is an attack comes from the rear, not when somebody pulls off the front. Right. So etiquette's etiquette. Right. I'm not talking about.
Well, we're not talking about racing tactics.
No, but we're talking about etiquette, and let's face it, if you show up for a Highlands Peddlers ride, you're showing up for a group ride. You're not showing up to race. It's not a race. Right. It's never a race unless you advertise it as that, right?
Right, of course.
It's a group ride. But the idea is you're obviously going to want.
Again, it's all about predictability and understanding what's happening.
If you're going to increase the pace, just do it gradually. Yeah. Don't do it in an attacking manner. Yeah. Is I guess what we're saying.
Even a non-attack, when you surge, it catches people off guard. It wears people out. And you got two ways to look at it. If you're trying to do a friendly ride, doesn't have to be a slow ride. It's just we're working together as a group. And if you want everyone to stay together at the end, you work together the whole time. Yep. So
here's a newbie mistake. Second in line, leader pulls off, newbie pushes the pace, and blows himself up.
Yep.
So one of the things that I like to stress to somebody who's relatively new to the sport, take your pull, but it doesn't have to be a 5-minute behemoth pull. It can be a 30-second maintaining pace, steady pull, and then tap and move to the back until you finally get yourself comfortable to where you know where you're going to be at the end of a 40-mile ride and you know how to handle yourself.
And the big thing is I stress make it a 30-second pull. Yeah. Until you know how you feel after 40 miles of riding and what it feels like, pull for 30 seconds, if that, and rotate to the back and stay fresh. And then once you know, okay, I can do 40 miles with this group at doing this, then you start extending your pulls a little bit and you can figure out how to be stronger. So now the lead person is off. They're no longer. They're drifting to the back. Ideally, you're listening for whoever's the last person in that pace line to say, last man, last girl, last rider, whatever. Right. And that's your cue. And if you don't get if someone doesn't tell you they're last, you got to be looking over your shoulder, knowing where your end's at. Because when you're two riders back or right next to the last rider, you want to get on your gears, accelerate a little bit so you get on that line and stay with it. Because if you gap, especially if you're tired, if you're fresh and you're and whatever, you're fine. You'll get on, gap or no gap. But if you're tired and you're struggling to stay on with the group as it is, if there's a couple bite gap, you may lose the group altogether.
Right. Yeah.
So
I agree.
So if you're the last person, call out last person. So people know.
And I'm definitely the king of the 30-second pull, unless nobody shows up for the hump day ride and I ride by myself. But whatever, Jeremy.
Let's talk about half wheeling since we're talking about. Yeah. Have you talked about that yet?
Well, we've mentioned it a couple times, but so half wheeling, for those who don't know, is when you're in a pace line and you're drafting. When you start to overlap the rider in front of you, that's what we start talking about half wheeling.
Right.
Is you've got this overlap, and the problem with that is the person in front of you that you're overlapping, if they make a move right or left, whichever side you are, next thing you know, you're down and everybody behind you's down.
And why explain the mechanics of how that happens. Why not the person you overlap wheels with in front of you almost never falls down.
Sure, and that's because the rear wheel doesn't turn. I mean, that's just a matter of fact. Rear wheel doesn't turn.
And most of your weight's on the rear wheel.
Most of your weight is centered. I mean, almost 70% is over the rear wheel.
So as a person who's doing the overlap,
you just get bumped.
You're putting yourself, you're putting yourself at risk. Your front end's light, relatively speaking. You go down, and everyone basically, due to lack of reaction time, are running you over and crashing with you.
We had a couple segments today where I was overlapped on Laura, LA, And, I simply say, on your right, and you and I do it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
But it comes back to what we originally started the segment with, communication. You've got to let somebody know if you're overlapped, and it happens. I mean, it's almost impossible for it not to happen, but you need to be cognizant of it, and you need to let the person know that you're overlapped on them right then.
Yeah, and again, that's where you employ your soft pedaling technique. And then you drift. And I want to talk about something else in addition to soft pedaling that I think people need to do. But once you're clear of that person's wheel, say, I'm clear. That way they know they can relax a little bit. They can move around again. But I think, in addition to soft pedaling, with people, when you're in the middle of a pace line, you should be covering your brakes. You should have instant access to your brakes. And you should learn to soft pedal and gently squeeze your brakes at the same time where you're actually pedaling and braking to help modulate your speed.
Don't grab a fistful.
Don't grab a fistful.
There's rarely ever a time where you grab
maybe
a fistful.
Maybe that's more than a 101 level thing. But I always cover my brakes so that in case stuff hits the fan, I've got control. But I also modulate my brakes during a ride. I mean, so.
All right, so couple final points we want to talk about.
31 minutes.
Are what about eating and drinking while we're on the ride? We lost a water bottle. One of the folks riding with us today. And losing a water bottle can actually be dangerous.
Yeah.
Because the person behind you can run over it and cause them to lose control, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk a little bit about how to properly eat and drink while riding. I'm not talking to most people don't carry the ham sandwich and the banana and everything that you carry in the back of your jersey, but
listen up. The biggest thing is you got to be able to hydrate during a ride, especially summer times and long rides. You got to learn how you need to practice it when you're not with people.
Mm-hmm.
To be steady on your bike, you got to maintain your pace, whatever the group pace is.
Right.
You got to keep it straight line. You can't be all over the road because you're grabbing a water bottle.
Yep.
And you got to be able to grab it, drink, and put it back without looking at your bottle, looking down at your cage, and really looking away.
And a great thing to practice solo.
Yeah, exactly. Go somewhere on an open road, not too much traffic, and practice that. But you got to be smooth. Like anything else, you got to be smooth and steady about it.
That's right.
Yeah. So when you're on the pull, when you're the front person and you're setting the pace, more often than not. Now, if you're a strong rider and you're able to pull for 10 minutes without issue, you can probably drink without. But if you're an average rider like me or a new rider, you don't take a gel when you're on the pull. You don't take a drink of water. You wait till you pull off. Now, that time you're drifting back, that's the time to do your drinking and get back in line, and you got a little energy in you.
Right.
Same with anything else, grabbing food, all that stuff. So.
Sure. All right. So
we have people that ride with aero bars, and this is along the similar lines as eating, but actually it's not. It has nothing to do with eating. But aero bars and getting in the aero position.
It'd be a lot easier to eat in an aero bar.
It would be. That's how I eat.
And this isn't to shun somebody riding an aero bike with aero bars, but there's the biggest no-no and the biggest way to scare a group of riders is if you're on an aero bar bike and you're in the middle of the pace line, falling down and riding in those aero bars. I mean, you scare everybody that's around you. You lose the controls. You don't have those controls. You have the shifters, but you don't have brakes. And you don't have the ability to correct. You're in a very narrow stance instead of a wide stance where you have stability. And, there's a place and a time, and we love having people with their tri bikes and time trial bikes on the group rides. But the only time that you really should be in those aero bars is whether you're pulling.
If you're pulling.
Or following.
Right.
Last in line.
Last in line, but if you're last in line, you got to, again, you remember these people in front of you might brake or accordion or yo-yo. So you really got to give yourself 2 to 3 bike lengths,
right,
and be in your aero to be off the back or off to the side, and 5 feet between you or 3 feet, so you're not going to drift into someone. I mean, I did this just a couple years ago. I was tired, I was fatigued, I wasn't thinking straight, and I did something I knew I was supposed to do. I don't have aero bars. I get in the aero position, put my forearms on the top bar or whatever, and I half wheeled. So I did all the wrong things, right? So I half wheeled someone, and so I stopped pedaling to allow myself to be clear,
right,
but it wasn't quick enough.
Yep.
And that person had a legitimate reason to move over, caught my wheel. I think he moved left and turned my wheel, and I slammed on Henschgrass Road in the ground doing 20 miles an hour or so. But luckily I went straight in the dirt.
Yeah.
Didn't hurt myself, my bike, and
Didn't take anybody
and
else.
through the
down.
grace of God, did not take anyone behind me out. But that was the last time I've done it. And I've done it numerous times before that, thinking I'm experienced. I know what I'm doing.
And that's a good thing to say. You know,
scary lesson.
Accidents happen, mistakes happen. Here's a guy that's been riding for 20 years, group riding, knows better, lapse in judgment, and that happens. And another thing is, don't get your feelings hurt if somebody quickly says, off your aero bars or whatever. You know, they're trying to protect not only themselves, but yourself and the others that they're riding with. And it's not an attack on you. It's not an aggressive manner. It's just people get antsy.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody telling you to get off the aero bars isn't a manner to which, all right, let's get in an argument about who should and shouldn't be on the aero bars. No, we're just scared, you know?
Yeah. And there's, you know, reasons for it. But, you know, I'll concede that there's, you know, the delivery at that moment isn't always the best. And
that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
It sounds like that person sounds angrier than they really are, but they're just trying to catch their breath. And
Yep.
Kip's got a question, and I don't know, I don't understand it, but it says, is it proper to show your water bottle before putting it back in the cage?
Only if you utilize a legacy water bottle and you're sharing and want to get commission for marketing the shop.
Right.
If you're wanting, hold your line. Oh.
Tell
a joke. Oh, do you have any jokes?
None.
Wow, Ryan's got such a good joke book.
I wish Ryan was here.
We need to borrow. Where is he? He
should
be tuning in and give us a joke.
Maybe he'll be here for Taurus Sebring.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Love to ride him into the ground.
Kip's telling a story that he likes to tell people about. We were going up. I think it was his first Horrible 100 ride. And you know how if anyone that's done a Horrible 100, you got about 1,000 people or so start at the same time. And there's about 5 miles of just neighborhood type right and left turns going around the lake, getting out into the ride, some steep hills. So everyone's
people walking in the first 5 miles.
Yeah, and everyone's jittery when you got that big a group. Everyone's excited and stuff. And anyways, Kip was new, and we were taking a turn, and he started drifting one way or the other. I don't remember which.
Before killing it, Kip?
This long before killing it, Kip. This is back when I was faster than Kip.
Oh.
That was
there was a time?
3 days. It was short-lived. It was actually. Anyways, I said, I mean, as politely and as calmly, because we were just starting the ride. It was, you know, I said, hey, buddy, hold your line. Just hold your line. So he tells the story as I cussed him. Mm-hmm. I waved my fists at him. Mm-hmm. I was yelling at him. I was telling everyone else around us how he didn't know how to ride a bike. And but then he says over time he realized that I wasn't berating him. I was just
You're a liar.
I was trying to guide him.
You're a liar. Says so right there on the screen. Hey, so the joke of the day, what's the difference between arguing with a knife and arguing with your wife? A knife has a point.
Wow. Nice.
Thank you, Crystal.
Is Ryan on here?
No, that was Crystal.
Thanks, Crystal.
Or Matt disguised as Crystal. All right, so I think that's enough on rider etiquette. You know, if you got questions, if you have some ideas that you'd like to share, just know that safety is near and dear to Kevin's heart. And so email out to Kevin.
Because it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter to any of you guys. So
no, it's just near and dear to your heart. Hey, something we're going to.
Are we sure we want to announce this?
You're leading it, spearheading it. You're the man with the plan.
All right. First of all, we're real excited. Next weekend is Taurus Sebring. Sounds like the numbers are doing better than we anticipated. So it should be a good ride next weekend. Awesome. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And we got Rebecca and
Let me give another plug. Don Jose, Saturday night. We'll give you the time.
And watch our page.
We got our friends from Inglewood coming.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good time.
But we are going to implement a simple training plan to get you from wherever you're at now. Again, this is geared towards beginning riders, not people that are already out killing it and stuff like that. But
sure.
But to go, if you're doing 30 mile, 50
not
maybe
even.
A lot, 30,
if you're at Siriano's, we're going to take you to Century.
Yeah. Siriano's says Century. Almost makes sense.
It's close enough.
The idea is over and we're not talking about Taurus Sebring. We're talking about Highlands Bike Fest in December. Should be the second weekend of December. We're going to work on a weekly training plan to start a week after Taurus Sebring to build up mileage, build up stamina, and work our way up from whatever you're riding now to being able to do 100 miles on a supported ride.
Yep.
And it'll be winter time or December, so it'll be close to winter. Weather will be a little bit better. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So
nobody wants to go from the couch to Shutt, but Shutt's going to take you to a century in no time flat.
Something like that.
Hey, but think of this for our relentless folks that are tuning in. I would say most, if not all of them, haven't done a century yet. They've been focused on Augusta, which is a 70.3 half Ironman. Right. So this will be a great way to come in off of all your hardcore tri training and really start to refine and focus on your cycling and building your cycling base over the winter. And so this would be a great opportunity to attempt your first century, do it in a supported manner with a group of friends that can get you to doing that first century. Right. The age-old adage is if you're racing a certain distance, you don't train that distance, you train over that distance. And so a century can get you to that point. And if your goal is half Ironman, century is perfect.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. All right. We'll put the details out there, and we'll get it going.
Post Labor Day, that'll be a small training plan. Yeah. Most likely. Yeah. Well, we'll one or two rides a week that'll get us built up there, and then you'll have to supplement that with your own riding.
You'll have to you'll have to ride in between. It'll be a weekend or every other weekend type of thing. Sure. So anything else, you'll have to do on your own. We'll have discussions about what you should be doing to build up to each weekend.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, I think we're done.
We got it.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Appreciate the comments.
Loved it.
Did Eric sleep in tonight? Did we start to? I didn't see any.
And he didn't even ride today.
Wow.
I know he doesn't have his indoor trainer yet, but all right. See you guys.